So, why I'm here is I was asked at the very last minute to sort of come from Ireland to this Parliament. And at age 15, I was told by a psychic, you know, Derek, one day you're going to be asked to go and talk at the Parliament of World Religions, as did Viva Canandra. And when you do, you're going to bring a very powerful message. And I went, really? Great, okay. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and rush you through a story. But I think it's a very important story because this year was the inauguration of the Divine Feminine. And as you can see, I have a penis. Well, maybe you can't see that. But if anyone wants to do any tantric, just put up your hand and we'll go for it. No, okay. So generally, and that's what I want to explain to you. It's unless the women stop beating up the men, you're going to end up with the exact same scenario that you ended up with the burning of the bra and Margaret Thatcher becoming a man. Okay? The real Divine Feminine I've lived. I was born to an extremely psychic lady, an extremely loving mother, who, when I was born with jet black hair down to my shoulders, and I didn't eat for 3 months. Doctors claimed me ill and force-fed me. Everything about my life was about finding out confirmation later on. So at age 5, I'm sitting at home, the baby comes to my home, I hold the baby had whooping cough. When I gave the baby back, I had whooping cough, and the baby was clear. The next big event that happened in that life was, at about age 9, I'm sitting looking at cartoons on the television, and I see a vision. And I see a vision of my mother dying that night at 7 o'clock, that she was going to be on a bus and she was going to be killed. And I loved my mother. I loved her. She was a very violent, alcoholic woman who, on regular occasions, would break a brush over my back or break a plate over my head for no apparent reason. No apparent reason. And every time she did that, I would run to nature. I would run to the forest, I would run to the river. I'd get over it, I'd pick some flowers, I would return to my mother, tell her I love her, and hand her the flowers. I did not attend school until I was 23 years of age. The reason I attended school at 23 years of age is I wanted to see if I was mad. Because I was having all these experiences and nobody around me seemed to be having them. I was sitting at age 6 singing O Mane Padme Hum in Ireland, where we're Catholic. Things just weren't fitting into place. I had that vision. I stopped my mother getting on the bus that night by threatening to slit my wrists. In doing so, she missed the bus, and that bus did crash going down Christchurch Hill in Dublin, and several people were badly injured and dying, including what was going to be my mother's demise. It was going to be very valuable later on as I learned about the feminine energy and the Divine Feminine, because I was to learn through many teachers that you can't interfere with somebody's karma. I think I just did that, okay? And the violence escalated after that, as if I had violated her will to move on and my need for that feminine energy within my system, okay? She bet everything out. She bet my psychic ability out of me. She absolutely shut me down. I was so psychic I could tell people who had cancer before they were diagnosed when the cancer would show up, when people were going to die. I had visions of the future. I was a complete and utter lunatic. I seen auras. I didn't know what an aura was till I went back to school at 23. So I didn't know any of this. To me, it was all just natural, and the Divine Mother was rearing me. The Divine Feminine was rearing me because I was with her most days when I should have been in school. So I was sitting there with her. And then came a huge experience in my life. And this story really shows you that when the Divine Feminine is ready to take the man, the male, to task, how gentle it can happen, so you don't have to beat us up. So this is how it happened. I went to a disco. I'm like a disco dance, like a nightclub, right? And I sees this girl across the room, and I looks and I went, wow. And you know, parts of the anatomy began to rise. And so I went over, I asked, you know, can we dance? She said yes. We danced, and my God, I danced. It was definitely the dance of sexuality, right? And the night ended, and you know, we kissed, and we went our separate ways, and we asked, could we meet again next Saturday? Sure, no problem. Went our separate ways. I got hungry all of a sudden and went to a little restaurant to get something to eat. And when I walked in, there she was. And I was like, flutter, 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 and all this stuff again. And so I walked up to her and I went, hi, God, fancy meeting you again here. And she said, oh yeah, great, yeah, you know. By the way, she said, you live down in Homelands, don't you? I said, yeah, yes I do. And she said, would you do me a favour? And I went, here we go, brownie points, let's go. She said, yeah, would you walk this lady home and introduce me to my wife? Because I walked home with this other girl and I fell in love. I had transcended that act, that sex. And we were so in love that time didn't matter, and you know, we just wanted to be with one another. I was only 18, she was 19. You know, we just wanted to be with each other. And what happened was, we asked her mother, her father had died, we asked her mother, could we get married? And her mother said, you must be joking. And so we looked at each other and we made a decision to do a Tantric workshop together. We booked a room in a hotel. And in that room, she awoke in me something so powerful. She awoke that child, that innocence, that pranic child, that psychic child. And she nurtured me away from the violence of my mother and began to explain that sometimes the feminine is violent. And so when I was then ended up going to India to find the truth to some of the things that was happening, I was to see all the likes of what you were painting. You know, these fierce, like, with red tongues and blood and men dripping out of them, and then I go, mother! Do you know? And yet, looking past it and realising, like your green Tara, you know, that green Tara was there, and yes, she was, but she had the foot on the cushion ready to come when you were ready to forgive. And so, even though I was given the flowers, I was just to forgive my mother. And I'd like to end by telling you how I forgave the divine feminine, okay? And why I bring you the message of men are not as hard as you think. Men are not as stupid as you think. Men are beginning to realise that if we don't do something, that Mother Earth is going to kick our ass. We are. But what we don't need is you attacking us again. What we need is your wisdom. We need your glory. We need everything that you are, the intuitive. You are it. If you don't demonstrate it and show it to us, we will be lost forever. Okay? So if you really want this World Parliament to work here, stop battering the men. Because I am now a trained psychologist. I went back to school at 23, got 11 straight A's. I'm now a trained psychologist, and I can tell you, I brought many people through this field. So this is how I forgave my mother. My mother became a raving alcoholic. Every night I would go around and give her bread and milk just to make sure that she was, you know, nurtured and fed. One time I went around, she wasn't there, I put the bread and milk on the table, came home, went around about an hour later, and when I walked into her, I walked into the demonic divine feminine. It was demonic. It was the full ripping your heart out, eating it. It was full on, people. And for the first time in my life, I broke. couldn't love her for that moment. And so, fire met fire. And my words to my mother was, I hate you, I hope you rot in hell for what you've done to this family, and la 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 la, right? And stormed out and went to my divine feminine, who was my rock, my peace, my everything. And she said, Derek, calm down, then go around and do what you always do, tell your mother you love her. So I calmed down and I returned about an hour later to tell my mother I loved her, and she was dead. She had died, and my last words, burn and rot in hell. I found out today my life pattern is about separation and the understanding of separation. I separated from my mother on an even keel. It was okay. I've gone through it. It's all done. I've forgiven it. I got it. But then the last event that just absolutely sums up the importance of the divine feminine, you women in this room, and how we need you, is my wife, who was my rock, my soul, my heart, my everything. She did nothing but serve this world. She was the true goddess in action. She was Swarupa Prima. She was the embodiment of love. And she built all these hospitals in these 13 countries around the world. In India, she was the inspiration for all that for me. And then an event was to happen while I was in India. An event was to happen where she would get a headache. She had never been sick a day in her life. She gets a headache. She's brought to the hospital. The hospital tell her to stop wasting their time. It's a migraine. They send her home. 3 days later, my children get worried. Bring her back to the hospital. The doctors are screaming at her for wasting their time, and they send her home again. I flies in from wherever I was, and as soon as I walked in, I knew something serious was wrong. I brought her up to the hospital. The doctor starts screaming at me, screaming at her to get out. Waste of time. You know, why are you doing this? And for the first time, the divine feminine really awoke in me, and my compassion and nourishment for my wife. And I turned to the doctor and I went, have you a family? Because you will not see them after tonight. I am going to murder you. You need to listen to me. I am intuitive, and I know a little bit about here. I recognize this from my father. This is a stroke. No such a thing. We did a test. I said, did you take an x-ray? No. I said, well, would you take an x-ray? No. So in the end, they called the police to have me arrested. And as the police was coming, a doctor walked by, looked at her, said to the other doctor, you better get this woman an x-ray. She's looking very whatever. They did an x-ray. She had been bleeding into her head for the past 7 or 8 days, and she died 2 days later. And this is how she died, the divine goddess. They had put a monitor on her heart because she was having little heart attacks whilst this was all going on. And a nurse, dragging the monitor from her chest and lifting her with the monitor, said, get up out of that bed, you malinger. There's nothing wrong with you. And myself, my 2 children had to witness that. But this grace came over me, and I heard what the words really were. It's time to go. There's nothing wrong with you. You, the divine, are complete. You are complete. The union of male and female is finished and over. And Derek, now you find Linda.